All right, Ken, thanks very much. Good evening, everyone. Bob Pompeani here, riding solo tonight until 11 o'clock at 412-575-2600. Also on Twitter at KDPomp. Hit me up with your questions, and we'll try to get as many calls in as we can throughout the course of the next 25 minutes here. Steelers right now in a big hole, 0-3. This whole division, the only silver lining is that they reside in the AFC North, which collectively so far this season is 3 wins, 9 losses. And every one of these teams has tough schedules, including the Steelers. However, twice they could have won games in the last 2 weeks, and they didn't make enough plays to get it done. You have opportunities. When they occur, you must take advantage of them in the NFL. And yesterday, the Steelers ignored all the knocking. Opportunity was knocking loudly, and they weren't listening. And as a result, they get 5 turnovers forced. 3 were gifts, actually, by San Francisco. But still, they recovered them. 5 of them, and they turn them into 6 points only. You can't do that to win. As soon as that happened in the first half, I know I tweeted out, I said, well, this is going to haunt them in the end of the game, and sure enough, it did. And then there was a big fumble at the end by James Conner, which opened the door, 3rd and 11 holding call, so many plays that really, are the recipe for disaster, especially on the road. And that's what happened as the Steelers drop one. And they're now 0-3, and they're looking for something to turn their season around. Well, they have back-to-back home games against teams in their division. So if they do that, at least they can get back in the right track on things. And then they have another trip out to the coast to take on the Chargers. So for them, it's one game at a time. They got Cincinnati, a battle of 2 0-3 teams on Monday Night Football. I'm sure that's not exactly what people had anticipated at the network level who wanted that game at the beginning of the season, but that's where they are. Cincinnati is 0-3, but they took Seattle, all the way to the end of the game in Seattle before they lost. And yesterday, although Buffalo's not a good team, and I think even though they're 3-0, you'll see them collapse at some point, in my opinion. But they, the Cincinnati Bengals could have won that game yesterday. They did not. So they'll come to Pittsburgh on Monday night. And the Steelers, bottom line is, I thought they were too conservative in a game plan. I thought they almost appeared as if they were hesitant about putting too much on Mason Rudolph. The one way you alleviate that is by introducing a run game and sticking to a run game. And again, I looked at the overall stats, and you're not going to get this kind of, number that you're looking for when you only rush the ball 13 times back. He averages 3.3 for the game. You average 3.6 for the season, less than 3.5 as a team. You can't do that. But you also have to commit to it a little bit, and I don't think they've done that enough. They also did not throw the ball deep in the first half. I really thought they would try to at least loosen things up with a couple of throws deep. Mason Rudolph's strength, I think, is his arm strength and his accuracy on the deep ball. We saw his best throw in a very narrow window to Juju Smith-Schuster. He turned that into a 76-yard touchdown. He did another one to Deontay Johnson right on the money as he broke free from his defensive back. I thought he played well for a rookie. He alligator-armed one of them, but overall I thought I was very impressed with what number 18 did. But if you're going to look at it, honestly, take away the turnover, San Francisco had their way with the Steelers. And they'd won both of the lines of scrimmage. They stopped the Steelers, and I think they're doing that, this is just my opinion, with loading the box. You remember when Antonio Brown was here, right? He drew a lot of attention. Double teams. And what happens now is they're not double teaming everyone. So they have an extra guy who typically was in that double team. Well, now he's moving into the box. And I think making it real hard for the Steelers to generate any sort of run game. They have the tools. They have an all-pro, 3 of them on the offensive line, and yet it's just not working there. So they got to get this right. I think they have to be a little bit more creative with their game plan. They are getting no production at all from the tight end position, although yesterday, once again, Vance McDonald is injured. They don't have a lot of depth there, so this is not going to be an easy process. But they got to figure out a way, and it starts this week with the Cincinnati Bengals. The NFL, hard to predict. It always is. There are some teams at the top you would expect. There are others you wouldn't expect. Like I said, Buffalo is 3-0. Look at Detroit. They go into Philly yesterday and win. They're 2-0-1. I'd like to get your opinions about the Steelers, what ails them, what you think they should do. By the way, we'll have an update on Ben Roethlisberger, who underwent surgery, coming up when we return from a commercial break. In the meantime, we're talking about that. If you have Pirate calls and what they should do, 9 losses in a row. They come home to the Cubs, and the Cubs just got swept by St. Louis. They're in real difficult position right now. They're on their deathbed trying to get into the playoffs and likely won't, but the Pirates could help them get out of it by, taking them out altogether by winning a game tomorrow or the next night. But so far they haven't looked like a team capable of doing anything except getting in their own way. They've lost 9 in a row. They're 65-91. I want to talk about the Penguins, too, because they begin, before you know it, they'll be here. It's October the 3rd, next Thursday night. Buffalo comes to town for the home opener. 2 more preseason games this week. We'll talk about what's going on with them and other things. 412-575-2600. That's the number to call. This is the Ireland Contracting Nightly Sports Call. We're coming back with your calls next, right here on Pittsburgh CW. The Ireland Contracting Nightly Sports Call is brought to you by